And the question is Got Milk. It's a question. I am required by law to pay into the Got Milk campaign as a raw milk producer every month, a couple $100s a month. But this shirt is actually, I got a letter from an attorney, 2 letters that said, cease and desist, do not sell these shirts, don't represent them, don't wear them. This is an infringement upon Got Milk. Now I think you've probably seen Got Sand, Got this, Got Love, Got everything. But boy, you say Got Raw Milk, you are in trouble. Because we're speaking what we're saying tonight, which is a bunch of truths that they don't want me to talk about. They would much rather me not say what I'm saying tonight. So we actually came up with another shirt, and it's right here, which is legal, which says, get milk. Now it looks pretty, if you look up close, pretty darn close, huh? Can't hardly tell the difference, so there's a little white out there, it's got. But it's not a question, it's a command. And so they couldn't say a lot when I sent this back to them and said, well, it's too close. I said, well, sue me. And they haven't. So that's the story behind that. They've asked me never to make another one of these shirts. We got a couple left. So, anyway. And I would like to share with you that my dear wife, Blaine, and her brother, who is a phenomenal artist, who actually designed our logo, by the way, Organic Pastures Dairy, came up with this limited edition shirt which we're going to be selling at the Weston A. Price Foundation this next weekend, which is all these cows struggling like a bunch of U.S. Marines on Iwo Jima to put up a flag that says raw milk, you know, drink raw milk. Because literally they're struggling to try to get the truth out, and we need to help them here in terms of that. And this is a really neat kind of a ultra soft t-shirt that's kind of a new age kind of a thing that's cool. So there's a lot of fighting over raw milk, and in California, raw milk is legal as long as we meet certain standards. There's about 26 states that have raw milk available in some form, either on the farm or so on and so forth. There's a bunch of states that have made raw milk illegal completely. And in Canada, raw milk is actually a criminal activity. And tonight I want to show you a short video that won that big Canadian documentary award to talk literally about and show a little bit about the raid that happened with the Canadian Mounted Police came in, the CMP, and confiscating this guy's cheese equipment and his milking equipment, where they just wanted raw milk like we had in California. Now Mike Schmidt's going to be in San Francisco next weekend. Mike Schmidt came to our hearings in Sacramento and testified saying, thank you for bringing me to California where I can talk openly about raw milk, and thank God, you know, here in California you can legally do it. The same underlying political thing is happening in California, but it's not on the surface, it's behind the scenes. Because the control over market is about the control over the truth of what food's all about. And if you got people like me going out there talking about lactose intolerance and osteoporosis and all that kind of stuff, it's highly inflammatory to the Got Milk campaign, which is just put a milk mustache on it, pay a cute movie star to sell your milk, and people will drink your milk, and if they just deny the whole lactose intolerance thing and just go on. That's not the truth of the matter. And when we talk the truth, we disrupt things. It's very disruptive. So Mike Schmidt's film really talks about that. But in this political context of California, we're very fortunate that for all time, raw milk's always been legal as long as it met and exceeded pasteurized standards. So we in California here, Organic Pastures Dairy and Clareville Dairy, the other small raw milk producer, meet and exceed pasteurized milk standards. So that means that your milk that you're getting from our dairy has actually met all the standards for pasteurized milk at the time it was tested. But yet, it's not pasteurized. That's how clean it is. Pretty darn clean. We had a big push this year to try to change the law so we wouldn't be under the needle so much in terms of what's going on, because the emphasis is on testing for good bacteria in milk. There's not even a requirement in California to test for pathogens in the bad bacteria in milk. And last year, CDFA, who hates raw milk, the California Department of Food and Agriculture, went to their friends at the Ag Committee at the Assembly and actually got a law passed without ever notifying anybody. None of the dairies were included. Nobody knew anything until it happened. It was done on a consent item basis. In other words, no argumentation, no hearings were held. It was just, oh, there won't be any problem with it. It's like a stop sign at the end of a dirt road and 50 miles out, nobody cares. We cared, because what it did was it changed the standards so dramatically that it makes it virtually impossible in California to make raw milk. The testing for coliforms. If you wash your finger really, really well, and you test for coliforms on the tip of your thumb, there's 30 of them there. That's how few coliforms can be on a very clean surface. Coliforms are everywhere. Coliforms are our best friend. Without coliforms, you can't make vitamin K, B1, B2, B12, or B6, any of those vitamin Bs. Without coliforms, you can't fight off bad E. coli infections. E. coli 0157H7 dies in the presence of beneficial coliforms. So they started testing for these beneficial bacteria without us knowing. And that's the bacteria you want in your raw milk. They're saying we can't have in our raw milk. So we have to come to these very, very low levels, these coliforms. And that brought on a whole revolt in California. You should probably saw some of the emails and some of these things. But there was Senate hearings and a big, big upheaval where scientists from Australia, all of the United States, all converged in Sacramento, and CDFA refused to attend the hearings. But what did they do? After we passed all the way through legislature, all the votes, there were 3 votes against us, everybody else voted for it. It got to the governor's desk, and at 11 o'clock on the 30th, it was vetoed by the governor. Because CDFA, behind the scenes, went and had their people, their legal department, go and say, oh, you don't want this, you don't want this, it's not good. So we know that there's corruption at a very deep level, even though our representative politics in California approved it, and all the thousands of people, it was actually more than a couple thousand people, showed up in Sacramento and testified over many hearings, 8 hearings that happened. Didn't matter, because they went behind the scenes and just clipped it at the end with a veto. So we have a lot of work to do. We have taken the stance, now that we've lost SB 201, which was the Fresh Raw Milk Act of 2008, go back again next year, demand through congressional oversight that CDFA comes to the table early. But we have taken a very tactical approach to this. We said, okay, we understand this is war. This is war in the purest sense of body count. And we're going to take it as such. My background, they don't know anything of me. I used to be a SWAT team paramedic. I know about tactics. I know about being smart so you don't have to hurt people. Avoiding the punch to the chest. Getting away, doing it, just avoiding the conflict. Stay away from the conflict because you don't want to pay the attorney's fees. You don't want to be involved in that. You want to just win. So we at Organic Pastures Dairy and Clareville Dairy have taken on a complete tactical approach to these guys because they don't play fair. They have shown us they are deeply corrupt. And if we aren't smart and tactically aware and using good long-term strategy, we will be history. So what we've done is exactly that. We've actually gotten together and said, guys, this is war. And we have put together a battle plan which is winning great. And we're actually starting to make friends with our inspectors. They're respecting the fact they can't beat us at this. And we are winning. And our markets are growing. And people are getting the message that don't mess with us, guys. Because when you take milk away from Mother Lion and her babies, you got a real problem. So they understand the sensitivity of, they don't want Mark McAfee from CNN. They don't want Mark McAfee from Oprah. They're really concerned about sending off the powder keg in terms of really blowing things up. So it's a balance of power between these dynamics that are really in conflict. Even though the law on the surface, everything looks cool, behind the scene there's tremendous conflict going on between the power of the truth and the power of the market. So that's kind of going on behind the scenes. In fact, we've been degraded 3 times in the last 4 months. A degrade is different than a recall. A degrade means that when they came and tested my milk, I had more than 10 coliforms in the milk. We routinely test more than 10 coliforms. We generally test between 20 and 30 coliforms, which is nothing. In Europe, you're allowed to have 100. You're allowed to have 100 in the bulk tank. It's not considered pathogen. But we test between 5 and 25 routinely. We really work hard when testing comes to get below 10. But we don't pass all the time. We can't pass. The test is for pasteurization, not for raw milk. So we have found ways to accommodate the degrade. In other words, they degrade us. We are not allowed to ship milk for 2 days to the market, but you don't see it because there's plenty of inventory at the marketplace. We deliver once a week. And then on the 3rd day, we'll give them samples that'll pass and we'll be able to get back in the market. We do this as a matter of just briar patch routine now. Before we used to sweat and just like, oh my God. No. We're tactically taking the road and we just say, that's part of the game plan, we just go forward. And so we understand that's just part of the speed bump we're dealing with and we'll come back and live and fight another day. So that's the kind of thing you see going on, why you don't see people entering the market to try to help us to feed the people in California, to provide, because it's a big hassle. It takes people that are really dedicated to just stay in right on course and don't blink. So if you hear about frustration, it's not from the consumer's perspective, it's what's going on behind the scenes where you see the pain. And if you see a date code that goes a little long, that's because, hey, there's no milk coming down the chain for the next 3 days, and we'll catch up. It happens about every 6-8 weeks. It doesn't happen that routinely, but it happens. So just to let you know, there's an undercurrent of some real conflict, which isn't so public, but it's happening over here and costing us $5,000, $7,000 every time they do it. So just to let you know that. A lot more to that story, but I won't get into it on video. What else can I share with you? Any of you that have an opportunity, you can. Please come to the West End Price Foundation meeting this next weekend. There's going to be some big players there. Sally Fallon will be there. She's kind of the mother hen of the whole raw milk movement internationally. Mike Schmidt will be there. He's the gentleman being featured on this video on the show for a few minutes tonight. You will see myself. You will see Gary Cox, who's the world-class attorney that's taken money from the consumers to defend raw milk, literally in all these actions across the United States. He's a phenomenal person, and he's a very sharp guy. He used to be a prosecutor for the federal government. He knows all the tricks. He's a great guy, and he loves raw milk. You will also see some other representatives there that have great stories. In fact, what's her name? Dr. from UK. Thank you, Campbell McBride. I was very honored to have dinner with her a couple years ago in Detroit with my wife and my daughter, and she is a phenomenal human being. She is a delightful woman who has a practice in Cambridge, England, who focuses on nutritional prevention or professional curing and helping of children with autism. She is a Russian-trained neurosurgeon, pediatric neurosurgeon,